President Obama feels your pain. He empathizes with you. If you're having financial difficulty, hey, he knows just what it's like. Because you may have lost your job, you may be facing debt levels, you may be unable to find another job, you may have problems with childcare, but hey, he once lost his nanny. That really is true. Obama was campaigning or visiting as president, a couple in Minnesota, and he sat down with them to have a cup of coffee. And they told him their tale of woe, which was serious. They'd been married for 5 or 6 years. They had 2 children. He had a job as a carpenter, as a construction contractor, and he lost the job. And he looked around for another for a while and finally landed one at a railroad, but he had to be away almost every day during the week, 4 or 5 days. His wife went to school, got a degree in accounting, got a low-paying job at an accounting firm, $12,000 of student debt. The husband quit his job and looked for one closer to the family and now does contracting, but the work is intermittent and the pay isn't much good. So Obama actually sat there listening, nodding empathetically. And then he said, and I'm quoting him now, he said, you know, the reason I'm in politics is because of you. When I listen to your story and I feel what you've been through, I'm reminded of when Michelle and I were just starting out. And one day she called me in tears because our nanny had quit and we didn't know if we'd be able to get another nanny. He considers having a nanny or not having one comparable to losing your job and to being in debt and having to be away from your family and getting lower and lower paying jobs. To him, it's the equivalent is losing his nanny. I mean, this was a Marie Antoinette let them eat cake moment. But when Obama does it, nobody comments on it. This story happened on Thursday of last week. The Daily Caller picked it up. You might want to check the story. But nobody else did. Absolutely nothing. And it was simply not circulated. The mainstream media didn't cover it. Fox News didn't cover it. So please circulate this story around. It really shows how out of touch Obama is. You know, there was a phrase a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, called a limousine liberal. A liberal who traveled around in a limo, who empathized with the poor in theory, but in fact had no idea what it was like to be them. And in fact, empathized with the poor, but not the middle class. Empathized with welfare and food stamps and all that, but not low-paying, blue-collar people struggling to make a go of it with the family. And that's exactly where we find Obama. All this a benefit to the poor, very little to the middle class, and really very little empathy with what's going on, very little understanding of what's going on. After all, it's hard when you live in the White House and you're making millions from the 2 books you've written, and you're both Harvard Law School graduates, to understand the pain of a couple like that. I'll give you a hint, Mr. President. It's even worse than losing your nanny.